Hebrews 11:30. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell. Now, remember, we're walking chronologically through Hebrew history, and we're looking at moments, events that called for faith. Pardon me. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the army had marched around them for 7 days. And you remember that story. Joshua at the Battle of Jericho. Well, march around 7 times, once a day for 7 days, and nobody makes any noise. But on the 7th day, shout, and the walls fell. Sometimes it tickles me, and sometimes it just makes me a little frustrated about how there are all kinds of theories about how that might be possible. See, here's the thing. I don't need it to be possible. I need it to be a miracle. And that's what the Israelites were, that's what they experienced. They didn't experience some kind of, well, the sound waves and the, come on. Okay, keep moving. Verse 31, and this is a very intriguing, to me, kind of epic part of the Battle of Jericho sequence. Verse 31, by faith the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were obedient. Now, Joshua sent spies into Jericho to scout it out, do a reconnaissance mission. Why they would seek out the house of a prostitute, we got to kind of leave out there because I don't have a great explanation for it. But they did. They somehow got to Rahab's house. And some biblical commentators don't want her to be a prostitute. They want her to be an innkeeper. You know, the language is kind of not very ambiguous. I mean, she ran, whether it was just this little home business of prostitution, I'm sorry for laughing, but it kind of tickled me, or was she running a house of prostitution? We don't know. And you know what? Here's another aspect. I think we may be looking at this through our 21st century lenses. Well, this is not 21st century. This many thousands of years before that, before our time, and the customs, they really weren't the same. Now, prostitution has been called the oldest occupation in the world. I don't know about that. I only know that the spies found a place to hide at Rahab's. She didn't have a big neon sign saying, girls, girls, girls. But her house was built into the wall of Jericho. The spies were hidden by her. And so when the police or the military of Jericho came looking for, they had heard there were spies in the area. She hid the Jewish Israelite spies so that they weren't found. And as a result, the spies asked her what could they do to return her kindness, and she just said, save my family. So you know the story. Tie a red cord from your window down the wall. Everybody in your home will be spared, but anybody outside of your home will not be. And so that's exactly what happened. Verse 31, by faith the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were obedient. The walls came down. Jericho was sacked. But Rahab and her family survived. And as a matter of fact, it's kind of interesting to me. Rahab was included in the Jesus genealogy because she was, I think, the great-great-grandmother of David, King David. Okay, move on. Verse 32, and what more shall I say? I mean, it's like he's saying, hey, what more evidence do you need? I do not have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions. Who was that? Daniel. Quenched the fury of the flames. Who was that? Would have been Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Man, there are stories and stories and stories of people of faith. And escaped the edge of the sword. That was David, at least, maybe others, whose weakness was turned to strength. I think about Gideon, when I used to tell the story of Gideon, the character I would liken Gideon to was Barney Fife. Gideon, you know the story, but if you don't, you need to you need to read it. It's in the book of Judges, how he was afraid of the Philistines, and was thrashing his grain in in a wine press, which was not a very good place to thrash grain, but he was afraid if he did it at the threshing floor, the Philistines would probably either beat him up or kill him, and they would take his grain. And when the angel confronted him, he said, "Mighty warrior." And Gideon went, "I don't think you're talking about me. I'm the smallest, I'm the least of the least." And yet, God used Gideon and transformed his weaknesses into strength. And this is still in verse 34, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. Verse 35, women received back their dead, raised to life again. Both Elijah and Elisha did that. There were others who were tortured. Oh, now it's getting darker. Refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and floggings, and even chains and imprisonment. Ooh, it's getting real dark now. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskin and goat skins, destitute, persecuted, and mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in the deserts and mountains, living in caves and holes in the ground. Every story didn't have a happy ending. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm gonna be. I would love it if every faith story ended with, and they went from victory to victory. But it doesn't. There are those stories, but that's not all the stories. Some of these Faith Hall of Famers died a horrible, agonizingly painful death for the sake of following God's design. And by the time the Hebrew writer wrote, there is plenty of evidence to indicate that there were Christians who were sawed in two. killed with the sword, rejected and persecuted, mistreated, destitute. And his observation is, where is it? Some face, verse 38. The world was not worthy of them. Here's interesting. I keep saying here's an interesting fact, but it is kind of interesting. The world's not worthy of people of faith. Not just people who say, well, yeah, I believe in God. I'm a Christian, for crying out loud. My grandpa gave the offering plates to the church, and I've got a pew we sit in every Sunday. Good for you. Here's the deal. This Hebrews 11 chapter of the Faith Hall of Fame is about people who didn't just hold faith, they expressed it, and it cost them. The world is not worthy. Here's why it grabs my attention. I act as if the world was worthy of my time, my money, my energy, my attention, pretty much all my resources. It's not worthy of that. It doesn't deserve that. Well, going on, verse 39, these were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. That's huge. There are times when faith doesn't get us what was promised to us when we want it. And for these people, it didn't happen in their lifetime. I do not like that. I kind of want, this horrible, it's true though, so I'll tell you. I kind of want to drive through God. I mean, I pull up, I place my order, he puts it together, and I pick it up at the pickup window. Doesn't work that way, does it? I struggle with faith. I've told you this, I don't know how many times. Almost every time we talk. I want what I want, and I yesterday would have been soon enough, and it doesn't work out that way. I'm thinking, okay, this is the bad me. I'm thinking, what's going on here? These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what they'd been promised. So me not getting what I asked for, what I thought God promised me, that's not rare. Maybe I should quit treating it as rare. Verse 40, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. I forget this. There's something better. I can't tell you what the something is, except for this. When I die, because you followed Jesus on his terms, when you die, because you said yes to his grace, heaven awaits us. There is absolutely and literally nothing better than heaven. I lose track of that because I'm not getting what I want right now. I can't stay at the hotels I want to stay in. I don't have enough money in the bank. My car's not as pretty as I want it to be. Well, sucks to be me. But here's the deal. I got something way better in store. Okay, I'm done for today. I'll see you next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.